Hey guys, and welcome to or back to the Pause and Pursuit podcast with your host, Summer Clark. How are we all? I hope we're all having a great week and an even better Wednesday, because obviously Wednesday is everyone's favourite day of the week because the Pause and Pursuit podcast comes out every Wednesday. Okay, so today I have a solo episode for you guys. I have had lots of guest episodes lately for you guys, so throwing in another solo one here. So today I'm going to be speaking about the power of language, how self-talk impacts your performance. So obviously specifically related to agility, but the research I've done, it does, relate to athletes as a whole, to be honest. But obviously for us, it's agility. And I have actual experience of using this self-talk principle before and during my competition runs and on the day of a show, etc. So I'm excited to share that with you. I think it will benefit all of you. Some of you may already use self-talk to help you out when you're competing, which is amazing. But yeah, I'm just going to delve a little bit further into it today. Without further ado, let me get into my weekly recap. So what have I been up to since I last spoke to you guys? Not a lot, to be honest, just business as usual, working, teaching, dog walking, etc. I judged at Vision on Sunday, and to be honest, it did feel like quite a long day, but we got through it and it didn't rain, which is the best part. But no, it was super fun. I don't know why, but the 1 to 3 classes just seem to go on forever. I really don't know why. It literally took half the day for those. I don't know why, it just did. But then the rest of the day absolutely flew by, so that was good. I was happy with all 3 of my courses, as usual, nice and tricky, but also grade appropriate. Nothing that, dogs from each grade couldn't do. There were clears and, skills done right from dogs in every single one of my courses, which is always a good sign, if that makes sense. And it's always really nice to see people and their dogs absolutely smashing a bit that they may have found tricky or, thought that they'd find tricky before they went in, and then they get it right and they're absolutely beaming and they're like, wow, we did it, after they come out. Yeah, that is just what I love about judging. So yeah, that is what I've been doing. Been a pretty quiet week as far as out of the ordinary things. Not a quiet week at all as far as normal things. I am absolutely flat out at the moment. Someone actually did ask me recently, where's the Back to Basics series gone on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, etc. A lot of you probably know about my stress fracture in my metatarsal that I got about 7-8 months ago now. Last September, what is that? 7 maybe? Yeah. So I had a lot more time on my hands. So I spent quite a bit of time filming back to basics kind of exercises with Arrow and then putting them up every week on my social media. I don't do that anymore. I didn't forget about it, but I just was like, you know what, I do not have time to do this every week anymore. So that is what happened to that. I would still like to post some back to basics stuff every now and again, but it's not going to be every week because honestly, content creation is very time consuming. The filming, the editing, everything about it takes a while. But I do still make semi-regular videos over on my TikTok at Pause and Pursuit if you would like to see those. And obviously I post all my normal content on Instagram all the time as well. So it's not like you guys aren't getting any content, but yeah, the Back to Basics series did have to get put on a back burner simply because there just aren't enough hours in the day, right? I'm sure most of you can agree with me on that. There just are not enough goddamn hours. I feel like the day needs to double. It just does. We need 2 days in one and then a normal amount of the night, if that makes sense. Like we need a day and night to be awake and then a night on top of that, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense because I need more goddamn time. I have so much I want to do and not enough time, it seems, to do it. Although we're all just out here doing our best, aren't we? So anyway, I will stop yapping at you about my life and my struggles with hours in a day and get on with the meat of the episode. I've said before that I'll never say that again, and I just said it again and it sounded just as horrible. Anyway, swiftly moving on. So, self-talk then in the context of during a day of competition. So, for those of you who don't know, although it is probably quite obvious and very self-explanatory. Self-talk is how you speak to yourself in your mind. It affects your mental state both before and after a competition. So not only does it affect you and your performance in a certain run before you go into that run, your self-talk after that run's happened, despite the outcome, will then affect your performance in the next run, or even say the next few weeks of competition if you allow yourself to get into that mental rut and you don't use self-talk to get yourself out of it and back into a positive headspace, if that makes sense. So it is really, really powerful, and a lot of the time we don't even realise we're doing it. I know sometimes I can be, having a bit of a conversation with myself in my head subconsciously. I'm a yapper, so I yap to myself all the time. I know you guys must be thinking, geez, being you must be really hard work. I actually barely notice it. Maybe we all do it. I don't know. Let me know. But yeah, I'm self-talking quite a lot of the time. And I've been doing it negatively before and then kind of noticed and be like, oh, stop that. Do you get what I mean? And then it's important to put that effort into consciously reframe your self-talk in that moment if possible, which again takes practice. But again, like anything, practice makes perfect, and your mental muscle will get better, just like we build muscle at the gym by lifting progressively heavier weights over and over again. Trust me to always bring the gym into every conversation, lol. But in that same way, if we practice a mental skill over and over and over again and do it more and more and more, we will build that kind of mental muscle, if that makes sense. So self-talk does a lot for you. So to start with, positive self-talk, so talking to yourself in a positive way, helps you to maintain focus and control your attention during competition, while negative self-talk distracts you from the task at hand and knocks your concentration. So if you're kind of speaking to yourself positively about the task at hand, you are focused solely on that task at hand. You're thinking about how to execute it well, which is positive because you're thinking, right, what do I need to do now? What am I going to do step by step to succeed and get the outcome that I want? That's positive, instead of thinking, oh no, what could go wrong, if that makes sense. So it maintains your focus, and it also means you can control your attention. So you're putting your attention on the things that will actually help you succeed, which is the steps you have to take in that run, for example, okay? Whereas negative self-talk, if you're talking negatively about yourself and thinking about the things that could go wrong, that's distracting you from the task at hand. Because instead of thinking about, say, the line you want to take and the handling manoeuvre you want to take to ensure a successful outcome, you're now letting your mind distract you, and you're thinking about the thing you're going to not do. And there's no point in doing that because you're not going to do it. You're going to do the thing that you are going to do to succeed. So why think about, oh, what if I get behind my dog? Or why think about that? It's just taking your focus away from getting there and doing that blind or whatever. Because, like I said, what you think about, you attract, if that makes sense. So there's no point in thinking about what could go wrong, because that's not what you're about to go in and do. That's not what you're trying to do here. That's not the task, if that makes sense. So that completely throws off your concentration if you're using negative self-talk in that scenario. You cannot concentrate and remember to do all the right things that you have to do if you're too busy thinking about the complete opposite, which is what could go wrong. It's just putting more in your head that you do not need to have in your head, if that makes sense. Simplify it and just think, right, what do I have to do? And that's all I'm going to think of. So positive self-talk also reduces anxiety and stress levels, which, you know how nervous we all get before a run. This is really important. And it also allows you to perform at your best by reducing or eliminating entirely, usually not eliminating entirely, but at least reducing significantly the side effects of these emotions. So side effects of anxiety, for example, pounding heart, dry mouth, sweaty palms, scrambled brain, all the things that we don't like to feel and that we feel negatively affects our performance. And high stress levels, yeah, you all know the feeling and the physical sensations of high stress levels, nerves and anxiety. So positive self-talk, in this case, reduces that. Therefore, it also reduces those horrible side effects that we don't like to get, which is great because they make us uncomfortable, they make it harder for us to perform well and stuff like that. Well, on the other hand, negative self-talk increases anxiety and stress levels, and controversially, you know the word I'm trying to say, on the other hand, impairs your performance by increasing these side effects. So that's going to increase that dry mouth, that racing heart, those sweaty palms, those shaking legs. And those side effects then make us perform worse, if that makes sense. So it's really important to maintain positive self-talk and make sure you're not negatively using self-talk to reduce that anxiety, because we do not want anxiety, not only because it will make our performance worse when we actually run, but also it just makes the whole experience just way less enjoyable. And, you know, we do agility to enjoy it. It's our hobby. We love to do it with our dogs. We know that our dogs pick up on our anxiety and our stress levels as well. So not only will it affect our performance, but negative self-talk and increasing your anxiety through negative self-talk will also therefore increase the anxiety and stress in your dog and make them perform worse as well. So it proper is a two-way thing. Like, what affects you also affects your dog, if that makes sense. Positive self-talk boosts your self-confidence and motivation to work hard. So as you're standing there about to run, if you're using positive self-talk, you will be feeling more confident in your ability to perform well. And therefore, your motivation to go in that ring and absolutely smash the course and attack it and nail all the sections will be high. And we need that drive, that motivation to attack the course if we want to do well on it. So this leads to so increased self-confidence and motivation to work hard leads to a more positive attitude, and we all know how important that is in competition, and subsequently a greater improvement in your performance, both in the moment, so in that run you're about to do, and over time as well, because prolonged negative self-talk, for example, on the other hand, negative self-talk diminishes your self-confidence and motivation to try, because in your head you're like, why even bother? I'm useless, I'm not going to be able to do it. So your motivation to try and put that effort in is gone because you're scared to fail. So you think, well, I'm not going to put the motivation in, I'm not going to put the effort in because I'm just going to fail anyway. And this leads to a negative attitude and decrease in your performance, both in the moment and over time. And in the moment, I obviously mean that run there that you're about to go do. And by over time, I mean also in the long run. So we're all in agility for the long run, aren't we? Or at least I know I am. We've got years and years ahead of us, not only with this dog that we've got right now and we're competing with, but with future dogs. And, you know, it's a continuous journey, isn't it? It is a continuous journey. We're always trying to improve show to show, year to year, season to season. And, you know, if you're having this negative self-talk over time, if you're in like a negative self-talk rut, which I've been in lots of times before and it is not nice, that's going to impact you when you go home from that competition. And you're going to go, well, I don't want to try to improve, you know, I don't want to put effort in at training. My motivation to train and train hard and get better between competitions is gone. So you're not going to put that effort in that is required if you're going to see improvement over time. So whereas if you have positive self-talk and high motivation to work hard as a result, you're going to go away from the competition and think, right then, let's absolutely smash our training sessions. Let's work really, really hard and get better. And then you're going to come back better over time. And between each competition, you're just going to perform better. So that is also how self-talk, you know, it impacts you not only in the moment, but also over time. So it's not like you can go home from a competition and forget all about self-talk and controlling it. You more have to think about this as a lifestyle thing. You know, we don't just go away from a training day or a competition and forget, you know, and switch off from it all, do we? We are athletes and our dogs are athletes and it is our lifestyle. We can't just be athletes and in the athlete headspace while we're at events and actually doing agility. It's all of the time, if that makes sense, which I don't think a lot of people kind of think about, but how you live the rest of your life outside of agility and what you do outside of competition, and what you do day to day also has an impact. And like I said, it's muscle memory. So if you're used to using negative self-talk away from agility too, then you're more likely to end up using it as a habit while you're in agility. So you want to be practicing it outside of agility as well and away from shows and training days, which I think a lot of people forget. Positive self-talk also contributes to mental resilience, helping you to bounce back from mistakes and maintain focus during tough situations, while negative self-talk destroys your mental toughness. That is so imperative in sports and a lot of areas of life, to be honest, and encourages you to give up when you face a challenge or setback. It's that kind of what's the point mentality then, isn't it? So you need mental resilience because in any sport and any avenue of life, mistakes are going to be made. We're only humans and dogs. Everyone makes mistakes, lots and lots and lots in agility, in competitions and stuff. So if you're using positive self-talk, you can make a mistake in a run or have a bad run, but you can bounce back in the next run or the next competition and go in with a positive attitude again that will set you up for success in that. You can kind of wipe the slate clean and forget about that mistake. Whereas if you're talking negatively to yourself, that will ruin your whole day. That one mistake in that one run will ruin your whole day and have a knock-on effect on all of your other runs. And you'll want to give up. You may want to go home. You may sack off those other runs. If you have one bad run, you may think, I want to give up. What's the point? Because you've just faced a challenge. Maybe you faced a skill in the ring that you and your dog haven't quite mastered yet. And you don't like that. You feel like you're inadequate and you're using that negative self-talk saying we're useless, we're not good enough for this grade or whatever. Or, what will people be thinking? What will the judge be thinking about me and my dog? Whereas they're not realistically thinking. I'm not being funny. They're too busy thinking about themselves at a show, especially. Like everyone's concentrating on themselves and their own dogs. I always try to say to myself when I'm thinking like that, you're not that special. Like, that sounds really harsh, but like you're not the centre of everyone's mind, if that makes sense at all. Everyone is the centre of their own mind. You're not the centre of everyone else's. Okay, so don't worry about judgment. I've just gone off on a tangent about judgment. But yeah, that positive self-talk will help you bounce back from mistakes and also maintain focus during tough situations. So if you are on a tough course, say at GB tryouts, for example, where your performance across the whole course matters and is watched and noted and taken into consideration, you want to maintain focus. Say if you make a mistake on jump 4 and you've got 21 obstacles on that course, if you have that positive self-talk leading into that run, you'll be more likely to carry on and attack the rest of the course with that positive mindset and do a great job on the rest of the course. Whereas if you had the negative self-talk going into the run, you'll make the mistake on jump number 4 and then you'll just sag kind of thing for the rest of the run, and the rest of the run will also go to pot. Whereas if you had that positive self-talk, you could have made one mistake in the run, but the rest of the run was fantastic, which something like GB tryouts is important. But if you had the negative self-talk, then you inadvertently caused the whole entire run to be a car crash, if that makes sense. So it's again that giving up versus ploughing through mentality. You want to keep going always when you face a challenge. And also when you face a setback, like even when I broke my foot, that was a major setback. It wasn't just, a show, for example. It was a whole thing, a whole setback, not only in agility, but in my life itself as a whole. And I really struggled with self-talk at the start of that. I was finding myself sort of using phrases in my head like, this is it, this is the end of my agility career, there's no point even, at the start I was like, there's no point in me carrying on training, doing what I can, because I can't run, there's no point, I may as well just completely give up and stuff like that, okay? And that was negative self-talk, saying I'll never get back to fitness, I'll never be as good as I was afterwards, stuff like that. And I had to turn that completely around, and it was really hard, especially with no distractions, because I was physically couldn't leave the house unless someone took me, and I had to walk as little as possible. So again, whole of the story, you've probably all heard it before, but that is a great example of self-talk during a setback. So I had to turn that around and use positive self-talk to kind of talk myself through the process and think, right, no, there is stuff I can do here. I can keep doing little bits of training. I can focus my energy on what I can do. I can, you know, create some content for you guys. And that positive self-talk really helped. And I said to myself, I'll come back stronger. You know, I can still do my weighted workouts in the house. So I'll come back, I won't lose any fitness, and I'll be, you know, we'll come back fresh and better than before. And I just had to really turn that around, and it is easier said than done. But that is kind of an example of when self-talk can either make or break you when you face a setback, not just a mistake on course or a bad show day, but also, you know, a major setback like that. And as far as show days go, you know, we all have bad days, but if you let that bad day then travel with you into the next, say the show in a week or 2 weeks' time, the next show that you're at, then you're just going to spiral, you're just going to get yourself into a rut, and it's going to be harder and harder to break out of. So trying to break out of it there and then in the moment, or at least on that day, is ideal. You want to, you just want to really have that mental resilience and clean slate mentality kind of approach. I hope that all made sense. So self-talk also brings awareness to your physiological state. This is really interesting, which will influence your performance. For example, you can use this to your advantage by noticing the side effects of your nerves and reframing them as necessary adrenaline. So, for example, if you are feeling your nerves coming on and you can feel the increased heart rate, then, you know, the increased heart rate is a good example because I think it's potentially the most common one we kind of get, or I can feel that a lot starting in the queue. I don't know about anyone else. But for example, you notice your increased quickened heart rate and the butterflies in your stomach. And then you can use positive self-talk to go, oh, I can feel my heart going and the butterflies flying around in my stomach. This is good because it means my body is preparing me to perform at my best, my most alert and my most energized, by increasing the blood flow around my body to make sure that I'm fast and I'm furious on course. That is what the increased heart rate does. And then the butterflies in your stomach. Fun fact about those, it's actually your body switching off your digestion and your kind of anything that's not, it goes into fight or flight and switches off anything in your body that isn't necessary in that moment for that task, which is really interesting. So that is what the butterflies in your stomach are, and is often why you need to go to the toilet when you're nervous just before a run, psychological wee in the queue every single time, because your body's like, right, we need to rid of this urine in your system because you're about to fight or flight, and we don't want to be dealing with that right now. So that's really clever. So those butterflies, you could be like, or that feeling of suddenly needing a wee, even though you literally went to the Portaloo 30 seconds before you got in this queue, you could think, fantastic, my body is so ready for this run. So that is how to use positive self-talk in that situation. But on the other hand, if negative self-talk is used here, if you notice these side effects and then you go, oh no, I have an increased heart rate and butterflies in my stomach. This means I'm nervous, which means I'm not going to perform as well. You know, I'm going to, my mouth's dry, you know, my stomach feels funny, so I'm not going to be able to speak to my dog properly, or I'm not going to be able to run properly because I'm too nervous and my heart's racing, so I'm not going to be able to concentrate. That's framing it negatively. And that's going to impair your performance because you're going into the run worrying that these things are going to impair your performance, if that makes sense. So if you notice these side effects and panic that they're going to impair your performance, they are much more likely to. Like I said earlier, what you focus on generally happens. It's way more likely to happen. Whatever you focus on, you generally attract. Okay? So it's clever because as you can see there, it's the same side effects, the same physiological state, but you can use self-talk to reframe those in two completely different ways. Honestly, perspective is everything, and this has really helped me. So I'm going to throw a couple of examples of positive and negative self-talk at you now, just in case you're still a bit confused. So examples, and some of these sound really cringy and cheesy, but anything in the moment like this will work. So examples of positive self-talk include, I've got this. just focus on the task at hand. I trust in my preparation. I've worked hard for this, and stay calm and collected. So for me, the most effective ones are I trust in my preparation and I've worked hard for this. Obviously, you can only use these if you have actually prepared well and you have actually worked hard for this. But most of us do those things. We do prepare for shows. We do work hard in training, in the weeks leading up to shows and in between the shows. So we can all use those. And that really helps me because it kind of helps me release a bit of a sigh, like it takes the weight off my shoulders in a way. It's kind of like everything is out of my control now, which is a relief. I've done everything, I've done the best I can. Now it's just up to however it's going to go. Now it's just up to fate or the universe or whatever. It's, what's meant to be will now be because I've done everything I can. So those two really help me. And then the stay calm and collected, I use box breathing here. So I'll say stay calm and collected, just breathe. And I'll do my inhale for 4, hold for 4, out for 4 in the cue. And it really helps. And then obviously I got this and just focus on the task at hand, kind of G's you up in those last few moments before you step out onto the line. I've got this is for that. And then just focus on the task at hand, kind of is that reminder to yourself to maybe, mentally walk the course again in your head and just quickly remind yourself, while you're in the queue, what do I need to do? What handling manoeuvres do I need to execute around this course to succeed? And then on the other hand, then, examples of negative self-talk. So phrases like this you don't want to be using if you can help it. So I'm going to mess up. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'm nervous. And they're better than me. I've used all of these before and it never goes well. So I'm going to mess up is very, very common, especially when there's a course that, say, has a tricky bit. So often, and I hear other handlers say this, like even in course walking or in the queue, I'm going to mess up, or my dog's going to do this, or my dog's going straight in that tunnel. And I am awful for this. The amount of times I've done this. And it's just like, why? What's the point? We need to not. So if there's, say, a jump tunnel okay, let's use Arrow's nemesis. So say there's a tunnel under an A-frame in a course, and I stand on that in that queue and I go, we can't do this. Arrow's going to go straight in that tunnel. We're going to mess up. That's not good. That's distracting me from the thing that I need to do to make sure that doesn't happen as far as my handling goes, because we're all only in control of so much. It is 50-50 us and the dog at the end of the day. I'm not good enough. Again, quite a common one when maybe we've just moved up a grade or we're entering a bigger show, or maybe it's our first time at a GB event like Open Showcase, or maybe it's our first time at Crufts and we think, I'm really not good enough to be here. That imposter syndrome creeps in. But remind yourself, say if it is Crufts or a GB event, you qualified to be here. And even if you haven't, you have every right to be everywhere that you are. If you couldn't do an event because you weren't good enough, you couldn't have entered it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a free country. We can enter the shows that are available to enter. Okay? And they're better than me is, again, an imposter syndrome thing. And I have found this, right? This is quite a raw, open and honest thing for me to say, but I have had this before at GB events, for example, GB tryouts, when you're competing amongst and queuing up amongst the top handlers in the country. It's really easy to go, oh God, they're so much better than me. I'm not good enough to be here because I'm not as good as them. They're like these elite handlers. Okay, and that is not helpful at all, whereas, for example, again, I don't mean to sound cocky, this is just me being honest. Say I'm going into a YKC qualifier or YKC jumping cup at Crufts, for example. I'm stood there thinking, I feel like a bigger fish in a little pond, not only because, let's be honest, I'm not a child. I'm coming up to 24 years old. And the people in this class may be younger, maybe less experienced. I know maybe Arrow's one of the fastest, if not the fastest, in the competition. I go in feeling way more confident and with way more positive self-talk naturally. I don't have to work as hard to reframe to positive self-talk in that situation. So it is very circumstantial, and I'm sure what I've just said is quite relatable to a lot of you. Again, maybe depending what show you're at as well. If it's a big show, you will feel that, oh God, everyone's better than me, or I'm not good enough to be here and doing this. But then maybe if you're at a smaller show where there's less competition, say, you don't recognise as many of the people, that doesn't crop up as much. So it is very circumstantial, but it is all about noticing when these things come up for you, if that makes sense. But saying I'm nervous, it's fine to admit you're nervous, but I take that back. Don't even. So if you think I'm nervous, reframe it immediately. Say I'm excited. If someone says to you before you're going to run, how are you feeling? Don't say, oh, I'm nervous. Say, yeah, I'm excited. It's not tricking your brain, but it is. Like, it's convincing yourself of what's true, let's say, okay? Because you are excited. You just have to reframe that, if that makes sense. So, and if you hear yourself say it out loud to someone else as well, no, I'm excited. I'm not nervous. I'm excited. When they ask you how you're feeling, that reaffirms it to yourself in itself in that moment, which is really helpful. So those are a few examples. And like I said, that I can't do this is silly, because you can do this. You can do agility. You and your dog can do all the obstacles, can't you? You've trained all the equipment. If you hadn't trained all the equipment, you wouldn't be about to compete in agility in the first place. So you can do this. And I'm not good enough. There isn't a good enough. Everyone, people that we think are amazing and quote unquote good enough, and these top people that we admire, everyone makes mistakes. They all make mistakes, but it doesn't mean they're not good enough. You don't look at them and think, oh, they shouldn't have been here. Do you get what I mean? Like, it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't. So, in conclusion then, the type of self-talk you use has a powerful impact on your performance in the ring. And by understanding self-talk and how to use it to your advantage, you can develop your own consistent self-talk rituals and implement them during competition. So again, it isn't a one-size-fits-all thing, self-talk, okay? Everyone is different. Everyone will have, their favourite self-talk phrases to use, like the ones I just gave as an example. But you need to find the ones that have the most impact to you mentally and what helps you the most. And then you can learn through trial and error and through practicing over the course of several shows what phrases help you the most, when you should use them, when it helps you the most, whether that's when you're on your way from the car to the ring with your dog, or second in the queue, minutes away from stepping on the start line, or actually on the start line about to step out itself. Again, everyone's different, and only you can find out when, using these things helps you the most. And yeah, you just want to create your own little self-talk ritual and implement them during competition. And sometimes you might try something and it doesn't work, and then you try something else and it works. Then you keep that, and then over time you have your own little ritual of self-talk before your run. Also, after your run, do not forget after your run, like I said earlier, you need to keep using positive self-talk after your run, really throughout the whole day of competition and in your general life, because like I said, practice makes perfect. And you can't just switch it off, because if you switch it off and allow that negative self-talk to come back through, then that'll be affecting you for your next run or your next show in a week's time, for all you know, which we want to avoid. So that is it, guys. Thank you for listening today. As you can tell, I really, really do love psychology, the psychology behind sport. There was a much more in-depth and professional episode on this. Type in the psychology behind competitive sport, I think it was called, with Laura, and then I can't remember her last name. I'm pretty sure it was Laura. I spoke to a sports psychologist a while ago now. I might have even been in the last season. So find that and listen to that if you're interested in this kind of thing, because it was an amazing episode. But yeah, here was my little episode on self-talk. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I really do hope that it helps you out. Please do let me know if you've used it and it has helped. Feel free to message me, share your experiences yourself. I love chatting to you guys. My DMs are always open. Before I leave you guys, let me tell you what I'm up to. So I have quite a busy week coming up. On Friday, I have the international qualifier, so the first IQ of the year. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, it is the new way to qualify for the GB tryout process of the following year. Obviously, I just need to compete at 2 IQs this year to be able to try out again for Team GB next year, which obviously I'm going to do. I'm planning on doing all of them except one, and the one I'm not doing is in Scotland. Just can't be doing that at this point in my life. Never say never though. Definitely want to compete in Scotland one day. But anyway, yeah. So I've got that on Friday at Lincolnshire. So lovely little 40-minute trek up north. One of my most local shows, love, Winterton Showground. So I'll be there on Friday, and then I'm going on my own because obviously my lovely groom, my mother, is at work because it's a Friday. So I'll be there on my own, just me and Arrow, little double day out. And then the day after, on Saturday, we're at Dog Sports Derby for the first Team GB team day. So the whole team will be there. We'll do some training. We'll have some chats, meetings, etc. All the good stuff. So I'm really excited for that. Will be good to get back together with the team. Because obviously the last tryout day was over a month ago now. So yeah, it'll be nice to see everyone again, and very excited for that. And taking some really useful information away to help with our prep for EO, which is coming round really quite quickly, isn't it? It's nearly May and EO is in July. So tell you what, how is it nearly May? Nearly halfway through the year. So that's what I'm up to. And then on Sunday, guys, I've got a total day off. I think that'll be my second total day off, literally, of this year. And it's going to be on Sunday, and I can't wait. I will be going to the gym, but I won't be working. I have no work to do that day unless something crops up last minute. And I'm very excited. I'll probably go out to eat, go into town, go to a coffee shop. Don't know, but it's going to be great. So that is what is coming up for me. Without further ado, I'll give you my little end of the episode spiel. Please do follow me on social media at Paws in Pursuit. I'm on pretty much all of the platforms, like I always say, and do DM me if you want any more info on today's episode. If you want to ask any questions or just tell me anything, I love talking to you guys. Please also make sure you're following the Paws in Pursuit podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. On Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or whatever platform you use to stream your podcasts, so you don't miss any future episodes. There is an episode every Wednesday at 8 p.m, so make sure you're following, hit that button, otherwise the episodes might just slip past you. I do have Ashley Butler coming on the podcast hopefully soon, which is very exciting. You don't want to miss that. And if you're feeling really generous, please do leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That would mean the absolute world to me, and I do love it when you guys leave reviews. It just feels nice, feels nice. Can that be your guys' Easter treat to me, even though Easter's over? But this whole week's Easter, right? Okay, you all agree, good. Sometimes I forget you guys can't talk back to me. Lol, I'm going insane. But yeah, I think that is everything. I also actually know it's not. I always forget this one. I offer online one-to-one coaching for agility. So if you would like my help with a training issue, if you want help setting some goals for this season, now it's in full swing, or pretty much full swing, then please do fill out the inquiry form. It is in the description of this podcast episode. I would love to work with you guys. I would love to help you progress in your agility journey. No matter what you would like to achieve, I would really, really love to help. And yeah, goal setting, achieving goals that you have already made, fixing training issues, etc. Just putting that structured plan in place that will get you results that will last. That is what I'm all about, and I love working with you guys. So please do fill out the inquiry form in the description. It doesn't mean that you've signed up to anything. It just allows us to have a chat and see if I'm the right fit for you and if I can help you with what you would like to achieve. And then if so, happy days. If not, absolutely no hard feelings. That is life sometimes. But yeah, I will stop rambling at you now. Thank you guys again so much for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed it and took something from it. I may see some of you on Friday. I'm not sure. Again, guys, if you guys see me at a show and would like to say hi, then please do. I love it when you guys come up and say something, just speak to me and tell me that you're a podcast listener. And yeah, it's just a fun time. I love hearing that you're a podcast listener. It always brightens my day, puts a smile on my face. I could be at show having an awful day with runs that are just not going very well because, like I said earlier, we all have those runs and those days. But then one of you come up to me and say that you're a podcast listener and you enjoy the podcast, and my day is just great again. So yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your week, guys, and I will speak to you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Bye, guys.